This is the BBC News with Fiona MacDonald. The Hamas authorities in Gaza say Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 90 Palestinians in a single day in the Jabalia refugee camp. It's understood that many were killed during a strike on a residential block housing 2 families. Jessica McCallan reports.
Dozens of people are still missing following a series of strikes on the refugee camp in the northern Gaza Strip on Sunday. Videos posted on social media show local people using their bare hands to search for survivors trapped under the rubble. The wounded have been taken to nearby hospitals, which the authorities say are overcrowded and barely functioning. Airstrikes have also been launched on central and southern Gaza, where the majority of the territory's more than 2 million people have sought refuge.
Voters in Chile have rejected a proposal to replace the current constitution, which was written during the military government of Augusto Pinochet. The draft constitution has been rejected by 55% of those who took part in the referendum. Here's Leonardo Rocha.
The message from Chilean voters to their leaders in the opposition seems to be clear. Forget the idea of writing a new constitution and focus instead on the country's more immediate problems. Just over a year ago, Chileans went to the polls and voted against the first proposal, drafted by a largely left-wing group and backed by President Gabriel Boric. The latest version, which was seen as more conservative, would have banned abortion and allowed the immediate deportation of illegal migrants. The governing coalition has celebrated its rejection in Sunday's referendum. Both sides have now officially given up on attempts to reform the constitution.
The trial of the pro-democracy campaigner Jimmy Lai is due to get underway in Hong Kong shortly. The long-standing critic of Chinese communism is accused of undermining the territory's national security through articles published in his Apple Daily newspaper and on social media. Mr. Lai has been held in solitary confinement for the past 3 years, since his writing was deemed to be illegal under new legislation imposed by Beijing. He's pleaded not guilty. The emergency services in Australia have worked through the night to try to rescue hundreds of people trapped by flooding in the state of Queensland. The authorities say people are stuck on the roofs of their homes and a hospital near Daintree, and rising waters have cut off entire areas. Tourists were stranded at the airport after their flights were cancelled.
It's a little bit crazy, we didn't expect something like this. I never see flooding like this before, and it's the first time to really repeat. And yeah, it's getting real, more or less.
I was in Cairns this week and my flight was supposed to be at 4 o'clock. We got to the airport and then everything's cancelled, so we're in line going back to Cairns.
You're listening to the World News from the BBC. South Korea says that North Korea has launched a ballistic missile over the Sea of Japan. The Japanese government says it may have been a long-range missile, adding that it was likely to have fallen into the sea outside Japanese waters. It follows the launch on Sunday of a short-range missile, which, according to South Korea, flew more than 500 kilometres before landing in the sea. A conference of Russia's governing United Russia Party has voted unanimously to adopt Vladimir Putin as its candidate for next year's presidential election due in March. Mr. Putin's selection for a 5th term in the Kremlin will put him in power until 2030. No real opposition is expected. Votes are being counted in Chad's constitutional referendum, which is seen as a step towards a return to civilian rule. A minister told the BBC that participation was satisfactory despite reports of a low turnout. Some opposition parties and civil society organisations called for a boycott. They fear the referendum will allow Chad's transitional president to strengthen his grip. Vote projections following a general election in Serbia suggest that President Aleksandar Vucic's party will keep its majority in parliament. The projection suggests his Serbian Progressive Party will win almost 47% of the vote. From Belgrade, Guy Deloney.
The opposition had called for this election, but it was always going to be a difficult task to overhaul the Progressive Party's well-oiled electoral machine. The Serbia Against Violence coalition accused the government of dominating the media and misusing state resources. But the Progressives and President Aleksandar Vucic appear to have maintained their appeal, particularly outside the major cities and among older voters. Prime Minister Ana Brnabić criticised opposition claims of widespread irregularities at polling stations. She accused them of spreading untruths, insinuations, unverified information and fake news.